afternoon, guys. Yeah, nice to see you all here. Very exciting. So many people didn't expect you find us so far away from Medellin, I guess. Are you? Who is from this university? Oh, just a few people. Nice. So everyone traveled from everywhere, from like Manila. We too. Yeah. It was a nice flight. Good sleep. But let's start here. Today we will talk about cybersecurity. Who is aware about cybersecurity? Or who is working like with cybersecurity? Okay, so a couple people are aware, no one working with cybersecurity, right? Yeah, it's cool. So we will have something to talk about today. Today we will talk about Python-powered platforms for user-centered cybersecurity. And this is our motto for our company. Let me introduce. So it's not only I present today. We present together with my colleague and friend Brandon, who came all the way from New York. Yes, here he is. And actually he will be the most speaking today, right? I just, warming up, like a little bit light talk, introduce cybersecurity, how it's related, how Python related for cybersecurity, and then Brandon, will share his amazing experience about designing interface for cybersecurity. For me, I work for Horani, so you saw tiger, like the proverb about tiger. So Horani means tiger in Korean language. It's a long story why it's tiger, so maybe if you're interested, you can ask later. Yeah, also, I was in Asia, so I didn't know what country to put here. So I just put, so I'm based in Asia. I came to Korea 7 years ago, more than 7 years ago. Now I'm doing project here in BGC. Also our office is Singapore headquarters, so that's why it's everywhere. In Korea I also do teaching, regular teaching for BOB, Best of the Best Cybersecurity Education Program. And today we have our colleague Jeffrey, who is working with us. So he arrived here, he traveled with us to support us. Jeffrey, are you around? Yeah, here. So if you have a question and see this face around, you can talk to every time. He was working with us and developing for cybersecurity in Python. Today basically it's different, different talk. It's not it's not just about Python and like coding stuff. Code stuff. It's more like introduction about cybersecurity, about user design. But like if you want to know details about coding, about developing in cybersecurity with Python, just talk to us around. So we'll be till tomorrow. What I want to achieve with this talk today, right? Usually, when I give a talk. I think if I talk details, like technical details, it's always boring. So people would sleep and especially I notice it when I teach like 200 students in Korea or some other countries. So my goal usually for talk is give you inspiration and give you reference, right? So I want to explain you what is cybersecurity in general, why it's difficult, like how we apply all this difficulty in our platform, design of our platform, to simplify it and deliver a more understandable, accessible information to our users. So this is the goal of my talk, right? Introduce and inspire about cybersecurity, and give a kickoff for Brandon's talk. This is the schedule. So basically, I have like four agendas, 3 of which are mine, but they are smallest part, and the biggest one is for Brandon. Let's introduce cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is usually about protecting something in online. And what is the most valuable online? A lot of things moving online, right? A lot of assets, a lot of company operations moving online. So most valuable things online is data. So data storage and data transmission, like through network in internet or data storage in your computers. So what can happen? Your data can be stolen while it's transmitting or while it's stored in your computer. So that's why, what happens if your data is stolen, right? Your company can lose reputation. For example, if private data of your user is stolen, like, your user won't believe you anymore. But what worse even can happen, you can have financial loss. So for example, if your company is attacked and your service doesn't operate, you lose money, right? For example, your users will leave, or they just cannot register and pay money. Also, like a lot of strategic document, a lot of documentation, a lot of plans moving online, moving to digital format. So if these plans are also stolen, it's bad. Like your competitor, it's called espionage, right? Your competitor will know your plans and you will lose money. So cybersecurity is a big area. It has a lot of disciplines. And here I listed some of them. Our company is focusing on forensic and incident response. I won't go to details of these disciplines, but yeah. Oh, what happened? Sorry. Yeah, I won't go detail of these disciplines, but like incident response and forensic is very interesting, and our expertise, and it involves a lot of work with data. Yeah, and why incident response? Because anyway, it doesn't matter how much you protect your data, how much you protect your company. If attacker has money and has time, motivation, anyway they would attack and penetrate your company or user, any user. So that's why there are a lot of measures how to protect, prevent attack. But still attack would happen, and we help with incident response. We help to respond to attack and mitigate consequences. And it involves work with data, collecting data, analyzing data, and responding and representing data. And anyway, yeah, why attack happened? Because you see, yeah, our job security. So mostly it's a lot of ignorance, a lot of just busy time when developers code. So there is a discipline called secure coding, but it's not many developers. Even we don't follow it sometimes in our company. So we, I mean, no, we fixed it. But it's like it needs discipline, self-organizing to follow all these best practices. So yeah, don't be ignorant. Yeah, this is our like simplified platform, how it looks in our company. So you can see it has like data collection, analysis, and representation. So, and what is interesting here, we collect data from different sources. A lot of complicated data from different sources, like compromised systems, web assets, OSINT. OSINT is open source intelligence. So, hey, you notice, guys, right? I don't go to details, I just give you references. So if you are interested, you can Google and check what is OSINT, what is scanners, right? What is feed aggregators, and so on. And what is also interesting about cybersecurity, this year, like if you see some trends, artificial intelligence is a becoming trend in cybersecurity, and we're also applying it in analyzing part. And this is our stack, what we use. And why we use Python? It's very easy to apply all different technologies using Python. Like there is a good API for Elasticsearch. Who guys know Elasticsearch database? Cool, some guys, yeah, around. So it's cool, right? It's a very interesting database, very good for cybersecurity data, because it can store unstructured, a lot of data. And like, when you say big data, in normal situation and big data in cybersecurity, the scale is totally different. So you can imagine a computer with 1 terabyte hard drive, and we collect data from one computer, but in compromised companies, like 1,000 computers. So big data, which usually companies deal to, and big data in cybersecurity is totally different. Yeah, we use Flask for our framework, like for Python, because it's very extensible, very easy to use, and suits both well to integrate cybersecurity tools and support front end, which Brandon will explain a bit later. Yeah, so this is like, for example, I told you about data collection, which is a difficult part. And this is like different, our process, how we collect data. And this is a screenshot, unfortunately not very clear. We wrote different wrappers in Python to integrate different scanners for data collection. And why Python? Why Python for cybersecurity? Because it was very easy to integrate different scanners, which written in different languages. Like in cybersecurity, Python is a popular language. Another popular language in cybersecurity is Ruby on Rails. So guys, it's Python conference, but who guys try to use Ruby on Rails? Okay, a couple people. So yeah, it's very interesting language, so keep learning also. I mean, my approach just be language agnostic and learn everything what is fun. Yeah, so this is about, again, data collection. You see like a screenshot sample of some data we collect, and this very crazy data, very like unstructured, a lot of nested elements in this data. So we need to collect it from different scanners, process it, and Python is very good for, for data processing and connecting different sources. Yeah, and another step of data is data parsing, normalization, correlation, aggregation, and Python helps with this a lot. Yeah, guys, let me go quickly. And reporting, right? We need to represent this data, and Flask and Python help us to process and represent this data with different, like for example, Flask plugin in a very easy way. So that's why we chose Python for cybersecurity. So in summary, why we need Python for cybersecurity? First of all, it's everyone, mostly everyone in cybersecurity experts, they use Python. So they write scripts, they prototype using Python. And for us, our experts also, internal experts use Python. So when they write a script, for us it's very easy to integrate it to our production platform. And yeah, Python is flexible, powerful, easy to pick up. I have a story of some guys, front-end guys, who did React.js and developed worked with Brandon to develop this nice, useful, accessible front-end. They were React.js guys, but they needed to learn how our backend works, and they easily pick up Python. Yeah, let's go quickly. Yeah, I just want to give more time to Brandon, so he's much nicer speaker than me. Yeah, you already guys know that Python supports a lot of low-level function like network capabilities, file system, and it's very useful for cybersecurity, for collecting data, for processing data. Yeah, for high level, like for example, when we analyze web page, we dump data from web page and framework like Scrapy. Who heard about Scrapy or use Scrapy? Right, you see it's very easy to use, very popular framework, and very useful for cybersecurity as well. Yeah, we use like workers, for example, to make schedule and run different scanners. So it's Python, yeah, cool. And yeah, Python is very popular for cybersecurity. A lot of interesting books, like this is references and other references you can check out. Jeffrey helped me to put these screenshots. Thank you, Jeffrey. Yeah, so check out very interesting books, and they are actually available online. Maybe not officially, but yeah. I think this is just summary. We can skip. Yeah, as I told, like our cybersecurity experts, they use Python for prototyping, and for us it's very easy to integrate if we use Python in backend with Flask. Yeah, but the problem of cybersecurity, a lot of good, interesting tools. So if you go to GitHub, you find a lot of open source, interesting tools, but all of them are for geeks, running in command line, in terminal, and very easy to use. Even if they're not for in terminal, even if they're not in terminal, so they have crazy dashboards and very difficult, like this cybersecurity platform, which already exists. They're very difficult to understand and only for professional. So that's why, like, our goal was to develop something more accessible, more understandable for user. Because like now every business is moving online, and they are like focusing on getting providing services, right? They don't worry much about cyber attacks. So it's same like in market. You sell fruits. You don't worry that some criminal comes and steal your fruits, right? You have security around in market. And they should understand how to address this physical security. Same happening online. We want that normal, just any user, any business, a small, medium business can easily understand how to use security, not understand, right? They can easily apply and use security and security data. So that's why we were focusing, using our backend platform, easily represent in accessible way data for our businesses, for customers. So I think here we can switch to Brandon.
Every programming language needs its own posse, and I'm glad to see PyCon as one. My clicker would work here. Really hoping that it does. This is what happens when we switch computers quickly. Okay, no problem. All right, so like he was saying, I'm Brandon. I'm a user experience lead for full-time, and also with Harangi. I've made a decision to be based in Singapore recently. That's where I am, and I love cocktails, so probably be doing that afterwards. I also work with companies to solve user experience problems, and I'll talk a little bit about that here. You know, this is what we're doing. This is one of the design services that we're providing at Harangi is user experience design. And how many people have heard of UX or UXD, right? Great. Okay. So it turns out that, you know, there is a definition for UX. It's fulfilling real user needs by making decisions based on what's best for the user. And this is easier said than done, right? Because when we get out into the real world, we actually have kind of a real world definition. And that real world definition is life is messy, and you can't always do what's best for the user because the company itself has restrictions, right, on data or on technology. So you need to navigate those waters too. And what I want you to know, my takeaway is, UX impacts your everyday life. So even if you are Python developers, you still probably need to know about this stuff. So let's kind of dive in. As developers, you're all going to be pushing the limits of what you're doing, right? And it seems like, you know, even school's getting much harder these days. So I really want to let you know that you're going to be challenged to solve a lot of these sort of edge cases and these sort of niche problems that your customers and your businesses are going to throw at you because they may not have hired a designer, okay? So sometimes that UX work might even fall to the developer. And it would be good to have these skills too, because really what we're talking about is user experience being at kind of the nerve center of these three things. So it's the real business challenge. It's the reason you're building the software or using Python for your solution. It's the unmet user need, which is the part that almost no one ever talks about. Why are we building this? Who are we building it for? And then kind of the technical capability, right? Like what can actually be built for the right money and in the timeline. So right at the center of that is actually where UX sort of draws together, because it is about the user after all, right? So what makes UX good is the question I always get. And I have to turn it back on you guys. Do you know what this is? Has anybody seen these on their campus? Yeah. Does anybody know? I think I heard it over there. What is it? A desire path. Thank you. Okay. So a desire path is like a weird thing that human beings do, right? It's like even if you give them a perfectly good pair of stairs or whatever, set of stairs, they're still going to take this path. For many reasons we don't know. Maybe they're actually not wanting to slow down. Maybe they just want to continue with their speed. Maybe there's a bicyclist who's actually going down this hill, right? So we don't often know why. But we do know something about this desire path. It's also the same thing about UX. It fulfills a real need. It's usable and it's intuitive. You really don't have to think, right, about slowing down. You're going down that hill. So if we kind of expand on that, the reason that I think UX is important for developers at this point, it would be to understand and champion your users. So someone in the company, someone in your group, your startup is going to have to actually do this work to find out who it is. The other thing is you're going to want to make decisions based on, you know, kind of what's good for the user. And not always will you get to do that, but sometimes. And finally, you're going to want to design for people, not for systems. it's really, really attractive to just solve a problem and move on, right? But if that problem turns out to be a larger problem and you just duplicate it, you're actually making the problem much, much worse. So I say that, but then someone in the audience usually says, but does it really, right? Does UX really do all of that, you know? And to them I say, yeah, like almost every day of my life I have to sell the value of UX, even to developers. So how do I do that, right? The first way is I talk about bad experience design being bad for projects, okay? So there's a really big issue with humans is that we remember bad memories more than good memories. That just kind of sticks with us. People can't tell the difference between being manipulated and you making an honest mistake in your programming. People can talk about it. They can talk about it online, and they often do. And search engines can just cut you off if you're making critical mistakes, right? You can just be orphaned. There's also call center problems, like you can be brought down simply by call center overload. And let's just talk about being sued out of existence, right? Like developers built the LinkedIn functionality. They were told to do so by someone above them, and it pretty much bankrupted the company, right? So there's something that happened, which is like marketing used to be in control of this, right? Marketing is the user person who talks about the user, right? And it used to be super simple because everything would run through the marketing company between the user and the company itself. But back in 2000, marketing got a shake-up, right? And now it's more like the user's at the center of this digital ecosystem. And every digital interaction is touching them, and it's a brand experience. And we talk about this like it's a very thin sort of membrane that kind of holds the experience together, and we do use the metaphor of a balloon. We say UX is like a balloon. You almost never know it's there except that it's holding space, right? So how has the transition worked out? Not just for marketers and developers, but also designers. And it turns out that good design is good for projects, okay? So first of all, we finally have a way to monitor the money that we're making off of this. There's a Forrester CX index. And a lot of companies do much, much better when they do positive user experience. If you build something inadvertently that is more difficult, it doesn't matter if your product is better. Your customer will move on to the second one just because it's a little bit easier to understand. Okay? That's crucial. That's definitely killer. We now have a ratio, a way to say what's positive to negative when it comes to user experiences. Now, 7-to-1 is like pretty normal, but if you're trying to kill it, out of 25 possible interactions, you have to make 24 of them pleasant to be doing excellently, all right? And finally, trusted brands and companies just do better. It turns out that there's this whole run-up to how we build human relationships, and it's very similar to how we do that with software. So just by the numbers really quickly, almost all first impressions are design related. 3 out of 4 people find credibility based on aesthetics. And this last one, there's an alternative to free, right? And it's people will pay more if they get a slightly better experience. So our goals with Harangi. We wanted to get new users onboarded to our software. We wanted to give them a basic service, move them towards a premium level, make good impressions, and create something to test with our users, because if we can't test, we're not doing user experience. So we did some planning, because that's actually part of UX. And who's heard of the double diamond? Anyone here? Double diamond? It's like the alligator, like opening its jaws, closing them. Yeah, so every second diamond, you're growing and shrinking the possibilities. You're focusing and widening, right? So we went through this. We got to here about a month ago. We're actually done now. But the idea was to run this process the first time, and then the next time cut it in half, and then the next time cut it in half. And the way we do that is, that's the startup life. But we do that by making hypotheses and testing them, okay? So the potential for client experience we found out were these 4 things. We wanted to be proactive, kind of like notifications that you get. We wanted to be anticipatory, like a sommelier who just is there with the right wine. We wanted to be fast, not like fast like a rabbit, but the way that the rabbit changes direction really quickly, right? Like at the drop of a hat. And also we wanted people to see where they were, kind of like in a subway system, right? How do they get from one place to another? So our approach for this, we wanted to front load the tough stuff, because this can be a problem. We know from user research that there's something called a goal gradient effect, where you actually will follow through and finish what you start if you can be convinced that you've made significant headway, right? So in the way that a marathon runner. So we moved special sections to the front that required a lot of work, and we allowed some decisions to be made from anywhere. And finally, we showed it very clearly what the next step was, right? We also know that there's a contact and a handoff situation, And there's this thing called peak end effect. Bowser comes into play here because he's the end boss, right? So you don't just meet Bowser once, you meet him many, many times. So people remember the hardest thing that they have to do, and that's usually the end boss. So to counteract that, we allowed people to skip directly through to actions that they wanted to take. We summarized all changes, all requirements, so it's very clear what they had to do. And we helped clients prepare and move to the next step. So if they needed to do something in the back end, we helped them. So this created what we found out to be a bookending effect. And if you're a human being, it feels really good to be held by bookends, right? Because you always know where you are and you're always supported. So this is the metaphor we were using. And we certainly wanted to avoid making it challenging because these days, when you make something challenging, this is like the phone within a phone that we never want to do. It causes more than just challenges. It causes like existential crisis on the people that can't use your software, right? So we solved our challenges using a couple things. We used closure design. This is a graphic design, sort of a Gestalt theory, where we helped people finish their tasks for them. We also slowed things down. You know, Nike and Withings and Fitbit found out a while ago that you can't just make a dashboard because nobody will use it. You actually have to let people play with the data to let them learn something, okay? So we slowed it down a bit. And finally, we realized there was a difference between can I and must I. So can I actions and must I actions come because the user's interrogating your interface. We never think about it this way. It's like a cop talking to a perp, right? So people resent being forced what to do. Very good study came out by Jonathan Haidt here. If we want to do X, we ask can I? If we don't, we ask must I, right? So can I and must I questions, you can almost hear the people groaning, right? So it's like, can I? How do I get started? Is there a button? Is there a clearly labeled step? Where do I look for what I need? Well, on the other side, it's like they don't want to, right? It's like, what must I really do? Is this going to be easy? If I can't find it, is it important? Maybe I skip it, yeah? So we need to design for both, and that's what we did. So this is our client portal page, and I just want to walk you through some of the decisions we made here that sort of supports all of this, because this is built with Python, right? So this is the landing page once you log in, and we do recognize the user. We say hello, we show them their logo, which we source, and we say good evening, because they might be stressed out. And we also give them access to their brief. Now the brief is a written, sort of text-based version of everything technical. This is a really nice summary. And what we do is we tell them what's going on, what they might be susceptible to. We show them charts and we show them dollars. This is what you're saving, this is what you're losing, okay? Now, this gives way to kind of an area where we greet them again. We say, yep, after you're done with that, we see you again. And we want you to tell us if there's anything wrong. So we make it super easy. We fill fields with information that we already have. Don't make them enter it again. And we also let them sort of cross-sort between all their properties. These are the websites that we're scanning. And we also surface really helpful data points. So this is not just a table. This is a really nice kind of gridded experience here. And we also slow them down by making them open and close slats. Why would we do that? Well, it's because if they investigate, they actually learn, okay? So we also make it very simple to contact us at any point, right? They can send this issue to us and we can have an engagement with them, which often leads to more work, okay? So this is more the same. We want to depict data with interesting graphs. We want to give access to the data in PDF form and downloadable formats. This is all done with Python. And then we get to the scan section, and all of a sudden our eyes go bright, and we change our tone, and our brain wakes up, right? Because here is the result of the scans. This is important. So we're actually playing around with their mind a little bit. And here we're able to say, look, we still see you. You can sort and filter this, and we represent the scans on a timeline, okay? We also let them dive in again. We open up the slat to show them all of the vulnerabilities, which they can read about, okay? Close and open. Contact us, we know the information, referral, and then we close off with a nice graphic. So now it's your turn. As user-centered programmers, you're going to want to plan the user journey for your next project. How are they moving through it? You're going to want to support and guide your user with some of these decisions I showed you. You're going to want to identify and move friction, like filling fields with information you already have. You're going to want to focus your user's attention. What's the most important thing on the page you want them to do? And finally, test. Put your work in front of the user, get feedback early, and get it often. All right? That's it. Thank you very much.